Let's talk about this first big story, because this is really, really fascinating. We've got from timcast.com over 900 pages of coronavirus research info at Chinese lab released following a FOIA lawsuit. Documents regarding the work of the Wuhan Institute of Virology are now public. The 900 pages of documents were obtained by The Intercept through ongoing Freedom of Information Act litigation against the National Institutes of Health. The collection includes specific information regarding EcoHealth Alliance, a U.S.-based health organization, and its use of federal funding to research bat coronaviruses. The outlet also received 2 grant proposals funded by the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Gary Ruskin, executive director of the U.S. Right to Know, said this is a roadmap to the high-risk research that could have led to the current pandemic. But instead of taking it from timcast.com and with all due respect, this is information coming from The Intercept, who did the work on this one, my respect, we have this statement from Richard H. Ebright, verified on Twitter, so you know he's legit. Board of Governors, professor of chemistry and chemical biology at Rutgers. Nice. He cites the articles and then some quotes from the article and then says, the materials show that the 2014 and 2019 NIH grants to EcoHealth with subcontracts to the Wuhan Institute of Virology funded gain-of-function research as defined in federal policies in effect in 2014 and 2017, and potential pandemic pathogen enhancement as defined in federal policies in effect in 2017 to present. He says this has been evident previously from published research papers that credited the 2014 grant and from the publicly available summary of the 2019 grant, but this now can be stated definitively from progress reports of the 2014 grant and full proposals of the 2017 grant. And he ends by saying this, because we don't got to read through everything, but it is particularly damning. The documents make it clear that assertions by the NIH director, Francis Collins, and the NIAID director, Anthony Fauci, that the NIH did not support gain-of-function research or potential pandemic pathogen enhancement at the Wuhan Institute of Virology are untruthful. To put it very simply, he is saying Fauci lied, Francis Collins lied, and now I think most of us realized this, but now we have the documents. What I think is particularly fascinating is The Intercept, of all places, that published this. And so, for what it's worth, we'll kick it off with something I saw from Glenn Greenwald. He said if he was going to make a bet, it was that they were trying to actually defend Fauci, and they may have accidentally just proven he lied. I don't know what your thoughts on this matter, Zed.
Yeah, I mean, I can only speculate about why they did it, because I wasn't in touch with any of these reporters. I still know some people over there, but I wasn't in touch with any of the reporters who did this story. I do think, though, that if that's what they were trying to do, it speaks well to them that they would publish anyway. I think we need more of that in journalism, is that you have a certain worldview or you have a certain hypothesis about the world. You go out there, you look for evidence, and maybe what you find disproves that, but you publish it anyway. I mean, that's what they do in science. It's what scientists are supposed to do. It's what the peer review process and the journal process is all about. And so I think if that is what Glenn is saying is true, it would actually speak well of The Intercept that they decided to publish something that goes against their worldview, which unfortunately I think is something that you see less and less of in a lot of these outlets these days.
You mean like real journalism?
Yeah, I mean, it's literally, journalism is about, journalism comes from the word journaling, meaning that you're describing or you're narrating the world as it is in front of you. You don't really do that when you start leaving out facts, when you start skewing things towards a particular perspective. There is a place for that. It's called advocacy, right? It's called activism. Right. It's what politicians do. It's what people who are lobbyists do, or people in the nonprofit world often do. And that's fine. And it's even, I would even argue it's fine to have journalists who have that particular perspective and are going to go at it from that point of view. But it becomes a real problem when so much of the journalistic world has converted itself into activism, because you're not getting people who are just calling balls and strikes. And you're not getting people who are willing, who have the resources and the prestige and credibility to go out and find the facts, who will actually be able to report them, even if they go against those preconceived notions or worldviews.
It's kind of a damning, it's kind of a condemnation of activism. The idea that activists who are supposedly fighting for something good are lying to you. I mean, that's just reality, right? Maybe propaganda is a better word for it. I'd like to imagine that as an activist, if you come across information that disproves what you're trying to push, you'd be like, oh, I was wrong about that. I once did fundraising for an environmental nonprofit. They gave us information on Deepwater Horizon. They sent us out to the streets to go ask people for money because they're like, we want to raise awareness, like literally on the ground telling people there's an oil spill. And then I was reading what they had given us in terms of, their script and everything. And then some guy stopped me and said, you're lying. That's not what happened. Here's the news. Here's what happened. And I was like, for real? Like, when I called my bosses and said, hey, this is not true, they said, oh, just keep reading it anyway. You're fine. And I was like, what? if we're not out here to tell the truth, to tell people there's a problem, and we're misinforming them, why would I do this? And so I was like, nah, sorry, I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you have activists, you have advocates, yeah, generally speaking, it would be frowned upon just be outright making things up or lying. But I do think they tend to, just by the nature of their job, they tend to skew the truth, or they tend to arrange facts in a certain way. I mean, I wouldn't expect like the NRA to start saying, okay, well, here's all the flaws with having liberal gun policy, or like letting everybody own a gun. And I wouldn't expect the Brady control to be saying, here's 10 reasons why you might want to own a gun for self-defense, right? Like, we all anticipate that. But what happens when you start saying like CNN or the Associated Press taking more strident ideological or partisan positions, and they start being the ones who won't be telling you both sides of the story? I think that is when it really gets dangerous for a democracy.
Absolutely.